Well, welcome to my new series. Thank you for joining us today. Hope you're staying cool. I know we've had some record heat in our area and staying safe. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about foreclosure prevention. When I started serving during the Great Recession, my district and our state was hit very hard with foreclosures. I would go into the community and 2 or 3 people on any block were struggling to keep their homes. We didn't really have a system to really advocate for homeowners. And so it was something that I worked with an amazing team of people to help create for our state called the Foreclosure Fairness Act. And I'm really proud of that work. And so you're going to hear from some amazing people I worked with during that time, really figuring out how do we help homeowners stay in their homes whenever possible and have a fair process. I want to introduce my guest today. I have 2 amazing people joining me. The first one I'd like to introduce is Pamela Bailey. She's from Kent, Washington, and just would ask her to say hello.
I have been working with Tina since, I think it was 2010 when we met. The foreclosures were happening very quickly. People didn't know what to do. I have a mortgage background, and so I was able to help people fill out their modification papers. I had went to a event at the Urban League, and I noticed that people were struggling, and so I just volunteered. Here's what you have to do. Here's what you check. Here's what you don't check. At that time, we didn't really know what direction we were going to go. We just knew that we had to pass some kind of bill to stop this bleeding. I mean, people were losing their homes by the thousands, and I'm not exaggerating. It probably was more than that. We finally got legislation passed, and we all got to go to Olympia and sign that legislation with Governor Gregoire. And it was like the best day ever because we knew at that time we were going to be able to stop the bleeding. It's a really great legislation, and I'm glad Washington State was really pretty much the first ones to get that passed.
Well, thank you, Pamela. And it's been such an honor to team up with you. And I'll never forget that day in Olympia. I think I had a smile glued on my face all day. You know, it's just so important. You know, I just think of all of us, usually the most important asset we own is our homes. And that's where we feel safe and protected. And so I appreciate all the advocacy you've done to help people stay in their homes and really create a system where there was none. Now I'd like to introduce Denise Rodriguez, and she has been there from day one of the planners of the Foreclosure Fairness Act, as well as one of the implementers. And again, please say hello, Denise.
Thank you so much for having me here with you on this recording. I'm really thrilled to have a chance to talk about the Foreclosure Fairness Act and help people be able to connect to the outstanding safety net that has created for Washington homeowners. I usually refer to the system that we had during the Great Recession as the bad old days or the wild, wild west. Basically, there was very little opportunity for homeowners to make sure that they were connecting to the right people at their loan servicer. And it was really difficult for homeowners who are not experienced in banking or mortgage lending or loan servicing to really understand how that worked and who they needed to talk to. We dealt with that by having these really large foreclosure prevention fairs, very highly collaborative, all different nonprofits, government partners, and financial institution partners. We would get a ballroom in a hotel and advertise it far and wide, and have hundreds of people come in one day for the opportunity to sit down and have a chance to talk with somebody face to face from their loan servicer. We would have housing counselors and legal aid attorneys and the loan servicers. And so that was really this very intense time. Everybody hoping that they would get this chance to sit down and talk to a decision maker at their loan servicer for that, one opportunity that they need to be able to save their home. Since the Foreclosure Fairness Act passed, that opportunity to sit down and be able to negotiate with your loan servicer has been codified. So we also created some additional safety net. The sort of first point of contact for most homeowners is the Foreclosure Prevention Hotline. That is the hotline run by the organization that I'm with, Washington Homeownership Resource Center. So that statewide toll-free hotline allows people to tell us what's going on. Have they received a certain type of foreclosure notice, and when figure out where they are in the foreclosure process, and then help them get to the resources that are the relevant vetted resources that they need. Most often that is housing counseling or legal aid. And so when they get connected to the housing counselor, they get all kinds of support to examine their financial circumstances, whether that's a crisis situation or whether they're resolving the crisis and kind of coming out the other side. And then that housing counselor can help them work with their loan servicer to figure out what options might be on the table for them to get back on track with their loan. And then if that isn't really able to resolve things, there is another point in the process where the housing counselor or legal aid attorney can request mediation on behalf of the homeowner. And that's that opportunity to sit down with a decision maker from your loan servicer and just look at all the numbers and see if you can hash out some kind of agreement that will work work for all parties so that the homeowner can stay in the home. So it's a very, very different process than what we had before during the Great Recession, and it's really effective. It was a huge turning point for our state, for homeowners in the state, when the Foreclosure Fairness Act passed, and it's definitely been a very different story since then. So we've been able to be very effective and save a lot of people from losing their homes.
I'm just so grateful for the work you've done, and you've helped lead the way. I know some homeowners might be worried about cost. And of course, we've included a fee to the banks as well as some state resources. So, people might get a lot of things in the mail, but how do they know that it's the Foreclosure Fairness Act, and what can they expect as far as cost?
There is never a fee for housing counseling as long as it is on the home that you live in. And now with some changes to the Foreclosure Fairness Act, some small landlords who have properties with 4 units or less also can access these resources. But there is no charge for housing counseling. And if somebody is approaching you and telling you that they can help you save your home, but there is a fee involved, that is not probably a resource that we would say is one that you want to trust. It may be a valid opportunity, but there are many scammers that also use that same technique, and it can be hard to tell the difference. So I think the safest way for people to get to the vetted, legitimate resources is to go through the hotline and then get connected in that way.
I think it's such a incredible system that's been built. And I know you're the entry of that system with the phone number. And I appreciate you mentioning the legislation we introduced this year. Was very proud of that bill to expand it to small landlords of 4 units or less, as well as really make sure the resources are in place. Pamela, can you speak to the homeowners out there that might be struggling?
My advice to the homeowner or anyone who's in trouble with their mortgage and they know someone who's in trouble would be to contact the homeowner foreclosure hotline. They will guide you and they will tell you what you need to do. They will walk you through what paperwork you need. They will counsel you, and I would call them immediately. But another thing I would do, and I always tell homeowners this, contact your lender. Let your lender know immediately that you're in trouble, that you cannot make that payment. And so you want to do that immediately, because the longer you wait, then there may not be any hope. And you don't want to lose your house just because you were scared or unsure. So get that knowledge.
Thank you, Pamela. That is great advice. Really appreciate that. I wanted to go back to Denise. Denise, you have chaired a group looking at outreach. We know that often communities of color are very hard hit during bad economic times, and often they don't get the messages of what resources are out there. Can you speak a little bit of the strategies we're looking at now?
We've been really wanting to do everything we can to make sure that the people who have been the hardest hit are getting the information. We were able to put together a mailing campaign and we send 320,000 postcards out into communities around Washington state. The communities that have the highest number of Black homeowners were on our list, the top 10 zip codes, and also Latino or Latinx homeowners, and then BIPOC homeowners and Asian homeowners. So we were really intentional, knowing that so many BIPOC homeowners are being negatively impacted by COVID. We wanted to make sure we were reaching those folks. So we sent those out. We've also been putting together a toolkit for legislators and other elected officials that they will be able to use to share things on their websites or on their social media to be able to connect people to the resources. We have a very short statement about the hotline in 11 languages. And then we have some graphics that have been customized for Facebook and Instagram and other social media so that people will be able to see that information everywhere because we know that the more often you see it, the more it sticks and the more you're able to connect with that information.
Denise, I'm just so grateful for that outreach. It's so important, like you said, that people have the information of how to get help. And so thank you. One of the things I think would be helpful, Denise, is I'm so proud of the program. And I hear from individual homeowners that have kept their home, but is there information you can share about how effective it is?
I also am always happy to talk about all the great work that we've done. And so I appreciate the opportunity. Since the beginning of the Foreclosure Fairness Act, we have helped over 70,000 homeowners. That is through the hotline and housing counseling and legal aid and some of the other less common resources that are available to people. Through some research that we have done, we were able to find that 86% of people that have received housing counseling avoided foreclosure. And so that is actually a huge, really wonderful outcome. It's better than the national average. And I think it shows that our program, which is really unique to Washington, is very highly effective. I also want to just speak a moment to the folks that we're serving with regard to property taxes. The hotline and housing counseling, we also, in addition to partnering with loan servicers, we also work with tax assessors and also the county treasurers in order to help people connect to different relief programs that might be available to them around property taxes. But there are also payment plans and some other options available, and housing counselors do help people with the property taxes in addition to helping with mortgage issues.
It's so exciting to see how effective the program has been in helping people keep their homes. Pamela, I think about, we got hit by COVID and it's impacted everyone, some families more than others, and it's to no fault of anyone's. Yet people might find themselves in this struggle and are hesitant to reach for help. Can you speak to that?
I would tell people, and I have told people this, don't be embarrassed. This could happen to anyone. Maybe you're the only one in your family who's gone through this. That was me. So maybe you're just scared because you've been taken advantage of. I had that happen to me. But what I did, I never gave up. I kept trying to find the right information. And even with my background, I had to dig deep at that time because there wasn't a lot of resources. But there are now. And there are all kinds of programs out there. So just reach out and find those programs. And again, talk to your lender because the lender is obligated to help you. And people get the wrong impression that they're not, but they are. That Foreclosure Fairness Act made sure they were held accountable. So that's what I would say to every homeowner who feels vulnerable, who's nervous, who's scared. Put that aside and just research. And the information is out there.
It was your courage and your story that helped this bill get to the governor and all your help for homeowners. Thank you. But I want to give a chance for my colleagues here to maybe give some final thoughts. Denise?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy for any opportunity to make sure that the homeowners of Washington State are getting the information about the excellent resources available to them so they know that they don't have to go it alone. They don't have to be afraid. We are here to help. Please do call the hotline if you are worried about your mortgage payments, your property tax payments, or even your HOA. We can get you connected to the resources that are here and that are available. The phone number for the hotline is 1-877-894-HOME, which is 4663. So 1-877-894-4663. Thank you so much.
And Pamela, do you have any closing thoughts for us?
This can happen to anyone. So don't feel like you're alone. And again, don't be frightened. And Denise has given out the hotline number, and I would utilize that. I would put that somewhere where you can find it immediately, because we never know with COVID and everything that we've been through, we never know what can happen. And so being prepared is the most important thing to do. Thank you, Tina, for having me.
Thank you so much, Pamela and Denise. Again, you've really just been such incredible heroes to help people stay in their homes. And I appreciate you being here today. I want to encourage everyone, if you have questions or you need help, feel free to reach out to my office. I have an amazing assistant, Mary, many of you might have spoken to, and she's there to answer questions or help connect you to resources or set up a time for us to meet. So thank you for joining us today. Stay safe and healthy.